What's up, everyone? I'm so glad that you're joining me this week. I'm your host, Ryan McCarty. We talk about everything people, culture, engagement. So this week, I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to Champion Your Culture. What's up, y'all? It's so good to have everybody here. George, what's going on, bro?
Just living life, man. Just trying to do good in the world.
I'm in a different location up in Michigan, and just working with all the stash companies and high minded and timber stores, all the cannabis stores and the grow sites up in Michigan around culture and leadership. So this is like perfect. It's my first time being on the road. Sometimes you're out on the road.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So we're just thriving wherever we are, coming in live with the group. So we just want to welcome everybody, as always, to Culture of Good sponsored Champion Your Culture podcast. We appreciate Culture of Good and the opportunity they provide for us sponsoring us. We appreciate everybody that's joining us live in the chat. On LinkedIn as well, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching in. Welcome. I think we got a great conversation that we're going to have today about building a business culture that really fosters the authentic, side of things, and really, the word that we kind of been playing on the last couple of weeks of belonging and really what that means. Let's kick it off, man. Let's dive in. Let's discuss this thing. If you have questions, if you got some comments, throw them in there. Ryan and I would love to answer those questions for you.
That's one of the biggest things I love every single week, because we learn just as much from all of you out there. And so certainly George and I are not the experts in culture and leadership. We all collectively are working toward the same goal of really ensuring that people feel like what they're a part of has meaning and purpose, and that for us with Champion Your Culture podcast, just having you all jump on week after week and being a part of our community and being able to jump on and learn from all of you has been really great as well. So if you have insights around these topics, please share. We would love to hear your ideas around some of this stuff, how to foster this, not as like just, hey, we need to think about belonging in our business, but also like, how do we build a culture where everyone can feel like they belong? You know what I'm saying? So how have you seen that lived out, George? Because you guys are doing some really cool data collecting and have learned a lot around belonging recently. Like, what's the learnings as of late that you're getting into?
Yeah, I think as we dug into it over Lighthouse Research, an advisory, Ben Eubank, shout out to him.
Yeah, Ben, what's up, man?
The data guru. What we're finding, Ryan, in a lot of these places, and we know this, right? The foundation of culture, the foundation of really any type of change in an organization is buy-in from the stakeholders, right?
Mhm.
And the influence that they have from all levels. But ultimately, the key is leadership. Right.
Yeah.
And so leadership and how we as leaders embody, empower, and engage our team. And I think that's a huge key. When we did some data, this will be coming out pretty soon with our company, but when we did some data, what we saw, the key characteristics of the data that we pulled, the psychological definition of belonging that we use was I feel respected, appreciated, and accepted. Those are the three things, right? So when all the people that were part of the survey, if they said, I feel respected by my leader, I feel appreciated by my leader, I feel accepted by my leader, when they answer those, what we saw was they were more connected, engaged, and really wanted to be where they were, right? They were part of a culture that they felt like they belonged. They felt like their leader was the influence of that.
So you're saying accepted, appreciated, and what was the third?
Accepted, appreciated, and respected.
Respected, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
when they
go ahead.
Go ahead.
What I was thinking about is, we always talk about whatever we tolerate will keep, but whatever we celebrate will grow. right?
Right.
And we're in the business of not growing business. We're in the business of growing people. And I like to remind leaders that you're actually in the well-being business. You're in the
Yeah.
business of well-being. You're in the business of mental health. You're, to think that we're just in the business of whatever products we sell and whatever solutions we provide. Really, we're in the business of growing human beings, and realizing that and recognizing that, I think, is one of those keys to what you're talking about. Like, do I feel not only like I'm accepted, but also appreciated for my contribution and respected as a person, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to walk into a place and feel less than, or like I have to shrink or become someone different in order to fit into this culture, So I love that. How is that lived out? Like obviously that's data, that's great, but you were talking about, I have a feeling that I'm respected. So it's
Yeah.
very starts with, it's subjective in a sense, right? Like
Hmm.
you have, belonging is like a feeling.
Yeah. Yes. It's the root of what we believe culture is, right? If I say, we've been saying this all the time, but I'll have you repeat it, Ryan. What is culture?
Yeah, it's how most people feel first, believe second, then behave most of the
Yeah.
time. So it's
Right.
it's it's that feeling to behavior, but what turns it from feeling to behavior is a belief. If
Yeah.
I don't believe I belong, or if I really believe that I have to fit into this culture to kind of be a part of this and to
Hmm.
grow and have opportunity for promotion. You ever go into those companies where the CEO wears like a hoodie all the time, and then you go and all the everybody's like walking around with hoodies, like
Yeah.
it's like everybody's trying to fit into this culture because they realize if you're liked by leadership and you're just like them, then you'll be promoted, you know?
Right.
So that's challenging.
I raised up my vest because I used to, growing up, ministry and everything. I used to love sweater vests, right? Uh, and then when I joined S3, our CEO, he was rocking sweater vests. And we got
Yeah,
these vests on. It's
yeah,
just, it's you really do that. Think about this, Ryan. The psychological definition of belonging, number one,
right,
is respected. What we believe culture is, number one, is feel, right? So if
yep,
they feel respected, right? Number two, if they believe they are accepted, they behave because they're appreciated. I think those three things,
mm,
from belonging to culture of good and our belief of what culture is, really aligns with each other. If I feel respected, right, it's something that I'm gonna be a part of. If I believe that I'm here for the right purpose and I'm accepted, I'm in line with that. If I feel appreciated, right, I'm gonna behave as such.
yeah,
And some of the things that really, when we think about this and look at more data, if you want to bring up more data on this, right?
yeah, yeah,
People who felt those three characteristics or attributes, however you want to title it, four times less likely. And we had Qatar on last week about
yeah.
mental health, but they're four times less likely to have a mental health decline this year when they felt like they were respected, appreciated, and accepted,
That's why I
right? When they felt
mean,
like they were belong.
that's why I'm telling leaders you're in the business of well-being.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
to sit back, and also realize, like, how are companies and organizations empowering their leaders that are, like you brought up, as leaders we should be empowering our teams. What I'm finding, as I'm out, working with companies, is it's not just about like telling leaders, okay, we need to empower our team. How are we empowering our leaders to empower our teams, right? Like
Yeah,
how are we taking them through organizational change management, where they are equipped and empowered to lead the people side of change, as we talk about within the culture of good. And Shannon, who heads up our training department, talks about that all the time. It's not just about leading a project, it's about leading people through that change. And we have to empower our leaders toward that. But how are we empowering our leaders to actually cultivate and foster belonging? Like, I would say the first thing is to raise awareness that this is one of the things that we care about as a company, right? Like if we're not
yeah,
using terminology like belonging when we're talking about our organizational strategy, if we don't use conversations like fulfillment and words like, Beyond engagement, like belonging and like well-being, like Qatar talked about last week, like these are terms that I think as leaders we just need to start talking about to other leaders about first. Like, let's get these words into our conversation. For every time we say KPI, we need to say the word belonging in some other strategy, right? Like, it's
Right.
just as much a part of your organizational strategy to ensure people feel like they belong, because that has to do with their well-being, their mental health, whether they engage, or productivity, how long they stay, your retention, recruiting employees to come work
Yeah.
for you, like we talked about a few days ago. It impacts everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as we talk about these things, Ryan, and really fostering this place of belonging, um, providing that safe place in all those things, right? Providing a safe place and spaces for your employees. I don't feel like there's as much value on that portion as there should be in a lot of workplaces where you are able to do those things, connecting with them and making sure it's not just your beneficial connection, but really connecting with them to where them, what motivates them, what inspires them.
What
Um,
makes them tick? What are they passionate about? What
yeah,
and when we say they, we need to think of it like, what is Bill passionate about, right?
individual.
When I right, when I walk by that cubicle or I walk by that office, what do I notice about um, you know, Dawn's office and what she has hanging up on the wall, that she really cares about, like those, and when as a leader, I see someone beyond what they can produce for me, what they can get completed for me. I really see them as uh, genuinely, like there's genuine care there for them as a human being, as a person.
Yeah,
People feel that, they sense it. You can't fake it. You can't fake caring. You can only do that for a short time. But if you certainly don't care, people know it. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah. George, I wanted to show a little bit clip about Culture of Good. I know some of you that are watching may be on wanting to learn more about Culture Good, what we have to offer them. As we come back for this discussion, I want to talk about kind of breaking down the word belonging to a longing to be. And what does that mean within the context of business? What does it mean to have a longing to be? And then kind of how do we then begin to foster that in very practical ways? So stay with us. This is a little bit more about Culture of Good. Business, where employees show up to work every day knowing that what they do every day is tied to a greater why. So the why is what gives them passion. It's the beyond the paycheck. If we could imagine a world where people left work and they felt energized and excited to tell these stories to their families of the impact that they had at work. So we've created the Culture of Good because we believe this. We believe that going to work and doing good with your life don't have to be at odds. We can do those simultaneously at the same time. We can know what we do every day, but we can also know why we do it. We can have that sense of a higher purpose.
Immediately, it was this euphoric feeling, almost divine, so to speak, that like, wow, like really, we get to do that, like at work?
It's important to me to work for a company that takes profits and put it behind purpose. There's always a lot on my plate, but nothing is more important than getting our culture right. Because I really feel like if we get that right, everything else will fall into place. And the framework that Culture of Good provides me is really the catalyst to move all of these things in the right direction.
Culture of Good Inc. It's all about connections and helping and inspiring in an authentic way. And of course, that all leads to drive the business. Culture of Good is able to get in and help employees understand a little bit deeper about what their employers are doing to give back to their local communities.
We created a 10-month solution. Listen, culture takes longer than 10 months to develop, but we created the first 10 months, 10 steps through the first 10 months of building a culture of good in your business. It's a playbook. It takes the guesswork out of it, step by step, self-guided, and so it's really easy, almost plug and play. It's hard work,
but it's work that's already been developed and it's proven to work. And so you can plug this into your company, find a champion in your business that is able to really lead that effort and that initiative within your company, and then you start to see the impact right away.
I would absolutely recommend it, and I'll tell you why. I've been in the industry of HR my entire career. We know that we have great ideas, but we get stuck in implementation. The best thing that Culture of Good brings forward, maybe not the best because it brings so much to the table, but one of the best things that Culture of Good brings to the table is that implementation, that out of the box, I didn't have to create the templates. I didn't have to create the roadmap. It was there for me. All I had to do was follow it. And oftentimes we HR leaders or we business leaders have to do the business and think about the business and be strategic at the same time. This brought the execution with it. I just had to pull it together.
The org part is super important, and it inspires people like me because that's what I saw. I could do it, it makes sense, I know it's been done before, and we can make more money doing it, so we can give more.
I envision Culture of Good to be the good housekeeping seal of approval for corporations across the country who can go out in their community and tell everyone that they have this stamp of approval, and everyone in the community will understand that they do good in their community.
I took it hook, line, and sinker and loved it and still love it.
Yeah, so we're excited because at Culture of Good, we continue to provide leadership and development culture training for those leaders within the organization that are leading teams, your executive team. If you have interest in really developing your core leaders, those key people that are driving the culture, driving your business, and want to equip them with the tools, strategies to really lead the culture and to build and grow what makes you special, reach out to us. Check us out at cultureofgood.com. We would love to talk to you about how to help you lead any type of transformation within your organization. So, yeah, so George, belonging, the longing to be. This idea of belonging is something personally that has been longing to be for me, like losing my mom at 6 years old to suicide, dad remarrying within the year, finding myself in a whole new community, new family. And then I think I moved, my sisters and I were counting, I think upwards to 16, maybe 17 times throughout our childhood and youth before I was an adult. And so I've learned to quickly fit into groups of people, to companies, to fit in, but the desire to fully be myself and believe that people are still going to love me. I almost feel like people care about me in spite of me, not because of me. And I think when
Yeah.
you find a place of belonging, you realize people are caring for you because of you. You
Yeah.
know, they really have a desire. And I think, when we look back at leaders in our lives, it's the people that showed up that mattered. It's the people that stuck around that mattered. It wasn't the most gifted, most qualified, most educated. It wasn't the wealthiest. It was the people that that showed up and were there for us in the good, bad, and ugly. And we knew that we belonged because when we went through the ugly stuff, they were still there. You know,
Yeah.
you don't belong if you're kicked out really quick. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's that yearning, right? It's that craving, that burning desire. Some people call it the thirst of
yeah,
just connecting. Yeah, I believe, Ryan, that um, when people don't feel connected, um, it's truly a loss of something, right? We were meant, I believe, to be connected as humans. We were meant
sure.
to not do life alone.
Yeah,
And when I think about, the signs of people who are not connected, right? When I think about when somebody is not connected, what typically happens, and the first word that pops up is depression, right?
yeah,
And I believe that depression is a lack of connectability. It's that, you're not plugged into that outlet, that source of belonging, where you long to be fill in the blank, right? We all have that longing to be that we need to fill in, right? George longs to be blank.
Or just to even be,
Yeah.
right? Like when we talk about bringing our soul to work, we're talking about like knowing what you do, also knowing why you do it, how that why is connecting to who you are. Like, how are you able to be yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like this longing to do is different. We're not human doings, we're human beings, right? And so a lot of times when we have an employer to employee kind of mentality, it's simply like, let's hire people to do this task,
Hmm.
right? We don't think about, as a leader, I'm going to hire this person to do this task, and also this is who they are. This is their hobbies, what they're really good at, what they love doing, what they're passionate about. And I've been spending the last couple weeks, like I mentioned, throughout the stash companies and timber stores and the high-minded grows throughout Michigan, just simply to sit down and talk to people or to work with them. Like, here's my gloves, man. I've got all that sticky icky from the cannabis on there, because I was like, not just sitting down having formal meetings, but as leaders, one of the best things we could do is get out there on the floor with people, or if you have a sales team, get out there and you know work with, like, be a part of the team. Like, I think the leader away from the team is not the leader, that's the manager. It's the leader in the team that's with the team, that's engaging with the team, that's talking, that's hearing what's going on in people's lives. So and I think the challenge of this is, the bigger we get, the harder this becomes, the more challenging it is. We have to be more intentional. Think of Claude Silver with that's the chief heart officer at Vayner Media, right?
Yeah.
Made a point every year, as she was like working in that area of the business, to meet with all 800 people every year, just even if it's a quick like conversation, just ensuring like, I'm going to spend some time with this person and make sure that they feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, but when they show up they can fully be themselves. Like, that to me is like belonging. I'm a part of something bigger than myself, but when I
Yeah.
can show up, I show up fully as myself. Like that
That
to me is
that's
important.
yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's the quote of the day. I think you punched out a few things. I'll say this, right, because I don't think people understand that. I know sometimes as leaders, it's hard for certain leaders to connect. And when I use that leader word in this form, I'm saying it's hard for men and women with titles who are in leadership position to be leaders, right? They
Mhm.
don't know how to connect. Statistics show that we have, this is the average time to connect to someone. The average time to connect with anyone is 40 seconds.
Yeah,
40
yeah,
seconds,
yeah,
right? That's a simple task of just caring, not saying, hey, how are you doing, and keep on walking, right? But saying, hey, how are you doing?
and
And
not having and not having a preset response.
yeah, right.
Literally, if to build a culture of belonging, if we were to get it very basic, it's that very thing. It's taking, even like, to your point, a minute or more a day, right? Like a minute or
Yeah,
more a day with each person on my team, to stop, look them in the eye, stop, pause, don't say how you doing and keep walking. Like, literally stop, say how you doing, and look them in
yeah,
the eye,
yeah,
where and have that sense. My mentor, not my mentor, but my teacher when I lost my mom, Mrs. Parks, when we had her viewing, everybody that got on the stage, that's what they talked about. It was how she stopped, looked at you, and listened to you.
yeah,
And that was her legacy. Her
yeah,
legacy as a leader wasn't even how great of a teacher she was.
yeah,
It was all about like her willingness to stop and
yeah,
pause. And so many times we talk to people, we're thinking of the next response, to actually stop and use third level listening. For those that want to develop in your ability of listening and being a leader that listens, look up third level listening and really study that and practice that out. But honestly, like, to your point, it really comes down to the culture. If we develop and equip our leaders to foster this kind of connection, and we begin to expect it as part of an organizational strategy. I mean, I'm challenging leaders to look beyond what we talk about as the touchy feely stuff and realize like this drives the business. Like we saw that video, like doing this kind of work impacts whether that person's day. Have you ever been walking down the street, George, and somebody compliment your sneakers?
Oh yeah, yeah,
It messes with you because that's what
yeah,
you care about, right?
yeah,
Like you can look at somebody and know, or look, like I said, something hanging in their office or something, and you notice it and you bring it up, and all of a sudden their countenance changes. That's what we're saying is like that feeling of connection every single day matters. And whether we feel it or not, some of us aren't that like outgoing, I want to connect with everybody kind of person. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about in order to have a culture belonging, you have to be extroverted. We're
right,
talking about in order to have a culture belonging, you have to feel as a leader that you belong there, and
yeah,
then invite others to come alongside that feeling, you know?
yeah. It's the whole adage, Ryan, that being authentically you, right? Where we don't have to put on a mask on to be corporate George, or but I can just bring my soul to work. That's our keynote. Allowing our team members, our employees, to bring their soul to work. We speak on that. We travel to companies, workshops, and events, and tag teaming or individually. We speak on bringing your soul to work, and it's what will happen if we allow ourselves to bring our souls to work, and be authentically us. I know that when I'm able to just be George and I can do what I love, but also do what I love as far as a job and a career, and those things can work together. Man, I feel fresh. I feel relieved. It's like a natural. I'm just me. I'm impacting lives, and here at S3, I'm saving our environment by taking everybody's laptops and phones and make sure they
Yeah,
don't end in our landfill. Right,
yeah,
when I'm
yeah,
able to balance that, dude, there's a freedom, right? And that's really, let them be who they are. How do you tie in their passion with what you're doing to
yeah,
make this world and your community, your clients, customers, a better place? Uh, I truly believe when it comes to leadership, and I'm going to say this about our introverts and extrovert leaderships, is that you cannot lead people. When you and I talked a little bit yesterday about leadership and coaching and things of that nature, you cannot lead people based on your expectation for them, right? So often leaders are trying to say, hey, I'm expecting this, and you're leading by expectation when you really must lead by their potential, like,
yeah, yeah,
and their passion. Lead them to and really guide them based on their potential, not your expectation. Because if we live based on expectation, I'll be the first to sign them and say, let me fail you.
yeah,
Let me fail
yeah,
you. But you got to lead on potential. And in order to see that potential, you got to be able to connect and
yeah.
know the power, to that source, and what turns it on, what flips it off, what gives it energy and thrives.
I mean, that to your point, we only have a couple minutes left, but that's the risk. What's at stake is your growth as a company, right? Because if you're not growing people, you're not growing your business. I see it all the time. You promote someone to a leadership position, but and you teach that leader, hey, whatever is not your strong suit, make sure you surround yourself with people that are stronger than you in those areas, right? Get the right people on the
Yeah,
bus. And then we hire someone to be on the team, and that leader never says that to that leader, right? To that person on their team. And
yeah,
so we just expect that team member be good at everything and have a bunch of strengths, right? And we never teach that team member to surround themselves with people of different strengths as well, right? So it's like
yeah,
this, whatever you say it every week, whatever we give out, we have to give out from what we've received. Like we can't pour out what's not been poured into us. And so
yeah,
I just want to challenge everybody out there. Like if this is something that you find to be challenging within your business, we offer everything from webinars to workshops to in-person trainings. As George mentioned earlier, we used to be pastors. George, did you ever do tag team preaching on the
all the time,
stage
of course,
where
of
you
course.
where you'd like actually go up and give the other person a high five and then they would start speaking?
I wasn't that cheesy, Ryan. We had
Oh no, we
transitional words.
no,
No,
no.
sometimes
Let's do
no.
yeah, yeah. We
In the
could go out and
beginning,
do tag team speaking on stage, and oh man, that'd be sick, wouldn't it? But
yeah.
George and I go and we speak in person, and we everything culture, leadership development. If you're saying we could really use some help developing our leaders, I mean, honestly, we like to champion those who champion people. So that's the biggest thing we do, and that's what we offer at Culture of Good. You can reach out to George or I. Um, get a hold of us through Culture of Good. Get a hold of us on LinkedIn. George, what are you thinking as we close up belonging? Is there any last words that you can encourage everybody with?
Yeah, I'll remind people in the beginning, psychological definition of belonging is I feel respected, I feel accepted, I feel appreciated, right? And when people felt that way, they were 2.5 times less likely to quit their job. People who did not feel respected, accepted, and appreciated, 2 out of 3 of them, 2 out of 3 of these workers, Ryan, with low belonging scores, plan to quit their jobs.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah,
out of
I would
3.
imagine that needs
They're
to be
they're
part of the
quitting.
organizational strategy.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. And so, when it comes to this fostering a culture of belonging, man, I believe we have to be authentically us as leaders and then also lead by potential and not expectation. And let people bring their souls. Let them be passionate about what they're passionate about and align that within the business and the vision of your core values.
Love it. Well, thank you all for being with us on Champion Your Culture this week. I don't think I'm on the road next week. You on the road, George?
You never know.
Yeah, I
You never
know. I
know.
know. We're out there doing good, y'all, and we would love to partner with you. Reach out to us. We'll see you back next week on Champion
Champion your
Your
culture.
Awesome. See you later.